we'll kick it off 6:03. We are going to take, as I said, but for the public, we're going to go a bit out of order tonight on committees. We're going to start with buildings and grounds because we have some guests that are going to speak and chat a bit about the project. Joe, if you want to kick it off, we can go through the other pieces first and then we'll turn it over.
Item 1, information, use of facilities requests have been received from the following district activities. Item A, SCHS National Honor Society Laurel Chapter induction ceremony on September 26, 2022. Item B, SCHS boys basketball open gyms. Item C, SCHS boys basketball weight training. D, SCHS wrestling strength and conditioning workouts after school. E, SCHS wrestling strength and conditioning workouts before school. F, open house in SCHS on October 5th, 2022. G, golf team end of the year dinner on September 28th, 2022. 2, use of facilities request from the after school Bible club. Item 3, use of facilities request from the Sullivan County Wrestling Club. Item 4, use of facilities request from the Sullivan County Youth Basketball. Item 5, other.
I've got an other there. We had a WeatherBug weather station for a number of years, and that equipment has since stopped functioning. So in my quest to find another weather station, I got in touch with Dr. Scott Richardson from Penn State Department of Meteorology and Atmospheric Science. And they're placing 20 weather stations across the Commonwealth to help with flood prediction and weather. And he asked if we'd be interested, and I said certainly. So they're going to put a weather station that feeds the National Weather Service here. And by Google Earth, he asked if, I can float this map, but essentially it's two 2-foot pads that are placed, and it'll be out behind the softball field on that slope behind the tank. They're solar powered and connected by cell tower, and I told him we had all of those things. So we're at number 17 of 20 that they're placing. So it's, I can pass this stuff around, but it's a full-on weather station. And the neat thing is that we'll get the raw science data off of that here in the school that we can use for our science programs, STEM both in elementary and high school. And we're going to have some probably graduate assistants and the meteorology department there at Penn State would be servicing that equipment. So eventually they'll provide us a lease, he said, and that would be to lease those pads that they'll, concrete pads that they'll put. And that property there is not really, it's kind of downslope with a softball field. There's not a good use for it, but it's open enough that they have, that their anemometer will be able to calculate wind speed, and they'll have proper collection because there's no structure directly around it. So just letting you know that'll be coming at some point, but Penn State will be sending a lease at some point just for that property.
Okay. What's the size of the space they need?
Installation 2 by 2 by 2 foot concrete pad with the
So
equipment
it's
above
not
it.
like they're gonna, the lease is just on the.
Just the footprint of that. Yep.
When can they do it?
They want to do it this fall. Install it this fall before winter. We're one of the places that they don't really have good collection for, and he was talking about a collection of downstream weather data for flood prediction, because, you know, we can get 5 inches of rain here, and 2 days from now, Montclairville is flooded. So, you know, it all starts up here somewhere, so it will make their modeling much more accurate, according to him. So,
All right. Anybody else have anything on the current topics? Okay.
I have something. Mayor.
Yeah.
The roofing project, which was supposed to start the 25th last month, is now scheduled for the 15th, coming September. They were missing some of the chemicals from the primers that they use for the decking, and they're waiting for that to come in, because they can't really do anything without it. So, just so you know, that's supposed to be starting here in a couple of days.
So they're gonna start on Thursday. Supposedly.
Hopefully.
Okay, hopefully, that's better.
It's still kind of tentative, because they're still waiting on the product, but they're supposed to be delivered the 15th, and she said they would be bringing material starting that day. That's it.
Cool, thanks for the update. So we have Kathy and Jim and Mary and Frank. You guys can take it away.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
yes.
Okay, thanks. So thank you for allowing us the time to speak once again at the school board committee meeting. For those of you whom I'm not met, my name is Mary Velma-Ferrandi. I'm president of Loyalsock Foundation. So Loyalsock Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization established in 2019 for the purpose of improving the overall health and well-being of the residents of Sullivan County. Our mission: to build a multi-generational regional wellness and cultural community center with facilities for health, fitness, education, and outdoor recreation. We looked at various locations in the county to find a suitable place for this facility, and one of the most important reasons why we wanted land near the Sullivan County School District is to give every child the opportunity to learn to swim. To that end, Loyalsock Foundation has amalgamated over 70 acres that will encompass the overall site for the summit. And so there's a map up there, which hopefully you had a chance to look at on your way in. It's taken us almost 3 years to complete the necessary surveying, subdivisions, the planning commission, title searches, the hearing, and all the legal documentation required for these 6 pieces of property, and we're not quite finished yet. So just briefly, I just go through this, Kathy's over there, so this a map that labels the 1 through 6. So parcel number 1 is approximately 10 acres purchased from the Reedson family by Loyalsock Foundation. Parcel 2 is approximately 10 acres gifted to the Loyalsock Foundation from Rich and Linda Vaughn. Parcel 3 is approximately 30 acres, of which 13 acres were gifted to Loyalsock Foundation from Rich and Linda, and 18 acres are leased for 100 years. Parcel 4 is approximately 2.4 acres to be purchased from the Lightline Trust that borders Route 42. And parcels 5 and 6 is approximately 18.2 acres to be purchased from the Sullivan County School District. So in 2021, Loyalsock Foundation received over $100,000 in grants to help pay for the concept design, market and operational analysis. So we got some of that from Geisner Foundation, $15,000, the Rec Association, $15,000, the Commissioners, $15,000, a local church for $10,000, and Tuscarora Wayne Insurance Company. And then DCED approved a neighborhood assistance tax credit program of 75% of Citizens in Northern Bank and Woodlands Bank, total donations of $45,000 to assist Loyalsock Foundation's purchase of the school district 18.2 acres. So the goal of that neighborhood assistance program is to bring together nonprofits with local businesses by giving them tax credits to benefit our communities. So this 2021-2022 tax credit program has a deadline for all transactions to be completed by September 30th of 2022. And so far in 2022, we've received a grant from Endless Mountain Heritage Region, along with a 100% match from the Rec Association, totaling $16,000 to establish trails on the site with signage and benches. And then we recently received our biggest financial commitment to date, totaling $220,000 from corporations for the engineering, design, and development of the driveway under that same DCED neighborhood assistance program. in 2022, 2023. So we'll find out about that if we're successful in receiving that approval from DCED probably in the next couple of months. So Little South Foundation's Vortex team and Apex Council, which is our, there are 2 advisory boards, along with our architects, Kimmelbo Architecture, and our recreational and operational consultants, Ballard King and Associates out of Denver, are excited to share the recently released concept design of the Summit Center for Wellness. And again, everything's over there on the display if you want to take a look at that, maybe after, and if you hopefully had a chance to look at it beforehand. The concept design is the culmination of many volunteer hours spent brainstorming, surveying residents, designing, reviewing, and redesigning. So as we got underway last year with the concept design, we shared with the architects that we wanted to showcase the lumber industry of Sullivan County. So much to our surprise, the initial design that was presented and which we all favored was in the shape of a circular saw. So this circular design lends itself well to an indoor track, which is one of the top 3 things desired in a wellness center from the 2 surveys we conducted. The other 2 things are the fitness and weight room and the indoor pool. So after many discussions surrounding the inclusion of a gym, the advisory board decided to build the wellness center in 2 phases. So phase 2 will add approximately 8,000 square feet that will include a full-size gym and kitchen that may be used as an event space for weddings and conferences, etc. So the key word throughout the design discussions for phase 1 was flexibility. So you can see, again in the design, that we have the 3 initial areas, the pool in the center, the fitness area with the fitness room, health, the weight room, as well as the actual you see in the sawteeth is where we've located all of the cardio equipment, and that will also look outside. So the entire building is 1 story. There's no upstairs, there's no basement. As we know from building the school there, that it's all rock underneath. So we're trying to do this as flexible and as conservatively as we can. So basically, for example, there's a party room next to the pool that may be used for birthday parties as well as educational classes, art classes. The welcome area in the front will be accessible for people who may need to use broadband but may not have a membership for the recreational facilities. So we've also included a meeting room in this welcome area. So we have plans to build various trails for walking, running, biking, as well as an outdoor amphitheater and outdoor classroom in the area that has the natural ledge backdrop. And additionally, we hope to establish a tree house to be used for exercise classes, birthday parties, as well as educational classes. Total cost estimates as of today for phase 1 is between $14.4 and $17.9 million. And of course, this is continuing to increase inflation over time. The actual estimate for the addition for the phase 2 is between $3.5 million and $4 million. So as for the annual membership cost, Ballard King, the operational and recreational facilities consultants, has made recommendations based on facility offerings at the summit, as well as the prices charged in neighboring communities, as well as several rural settings around the country. So what they're recommending as an adult, looking at it various ways, but $115 for say 3 months, which equates to $460 for an annual membership, or a monthly of $38. Senior membership comes down to $27 a month, and household membership is $55 a month, which is for 2 adults and 3 children under 18 years. So the next steps are the Summit Loop Trail, which we hope to have working on that in 2023 and open in 2023. We're looking at the tree house to try to see if we can figure out, maybe do that before we kind of get all the funds to build the facility, and start with exercise classes in the tree house, as well as educational classes and facilities for birthday parties. So we're working on the driveway in 2023, as well as, setting up this capital campaign, looking at all ways, public and private, for grants, federal and state agencies, charities, foundations, private donations. We'll also be looking for an endowment to help with the annual sustainability of the facility, And we will have naming rights for the various areas of the summit. So the pool, fitness room, conference room, track, amphitheater, treehouse, whatever. So that's where we are today, and just want to know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Did you guys have anything you wanted to add at this point?
When are they going to break ground? Did I miss that?
We don't have a date for breaking ground. We actually, there's, again, the estimates to actually build it are in anywhere between 14 and 17.8 million. So, and plus an endowment. So we have our work cut out for us. But we've been meeting, we just had a meeting with Senator Casey. I met with U.S. Congressman Dan Muser at the fair, as well as Senator Yaw and Representatives Tina Pickett and Joe Ham. We have their full support, and we're going to be meeting and talking about different programs through the EDA, as well as the federal appropriations, which is the new earmark funding that came back into play a couple of years ago, that we can basically go and ask for grants for this type of facility. DCED is also very much enamored with this project, and as I said before, we got the approval for the grants from Citizens of Northern, as well as Woodlands Bank first year to help buy the land from the school district. And this year we got the $220,000 for the driveway engineering design. And they're basically saying that come back every year. This is a unique project for this area. We are rural. We are. It's all about wellness, and so we're in a special category where the corporations get 75% tax credit for their Pennsylvania state taxes they pay. So we're looking at all types of grants through them as well.
Do you have a guesstimate on a groundbreaking? I mean, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now?
Well, we're going to start the driveways, as I said, we're going to start the driveway next week. And we're looking to do things like the trails and the treehouse, things like that. So we basically have to raise the money and find grants. So under the state of Pennsylvania, we are on the Pennsylvania state capital budget for $7.5 million through Senator Yaw's office, which is a 50-50 matching. So if we raise 7.5, we can apply for 7.5, so that would be 15 million of it. That's not a guarantee, of course. We have to go through a rigorous, program process of applying for that. But again, we're talking on the federal level, we're talking various places, and also meeting with all kinds of private foundations. We are also going to be meeting with Geisinger and UPMC and Guthrie to see what they might be interested in doing. So we don't have an actual date as of now.
Was the $220,000 for the driveway, you said engineering design, was that part of construction as well, the $220,000?
No, that's the estimate for the engineering design and development. That is, we're basically we're on a hill. There's a lot of stormwater runoff. We have to do all those kind of studies, and so that's where the estimate is that our engineers and Tish out of Montrose gave us, and so that's what we applied for. The construction of the driveway, is probably over $1 million.
Yeah, you mentioned the indoor track, fitness weight room, indoor pool for phase 1. How much money have you collected so far for phase 1, if I can ask that, I guess?
Well, we haven't done a capital campaign yet. So we just brought out the concept designs with all of our information in August. So this is like very early on. We've only presented to a few groups and a few individuals at this point. So this is what our fall and winter, we're going to be doing this and then setting up a capital campaign. So you'll see more of us out there in the papers. We also have a website, loyalsouthfoundation.org. You can follow us along there too as well.
So, excuse me, so I have a question. You said one of the reasons that you wanted to build close to the school was because you wanted all the kids to learn how to swim. But the membership for a family, which would include the kids, would be $660 a year. How are you going to make sure that the kids that their families can't afford that membership get to learn how to swim?
Yeah, so basically, there's a lot of foundations out there that we're gonna apply for grants to actually do swimming programs for that. So that wouldn't be a membership, that membership, that would be just a school, like a swimming lesson grants for those type of things.
So just on the business side of this, because realistically, I know that the question is, hey, when are we going to close, right? From before the team members and the foundation. So we should chat a little bit about that and kind of step back for a moment. And so the resolution was passed late last year, to sell the land to the Loyal Sock Foundation, as you guys are well aware. Just to clarify a few things, and I think it's worth noting and having this conversation, is that until late July, we didn't have any correspondence whatsoever in regards to the desire to close. So that's why we're in this, I would say, crunch time right now. It was in late July, we were notified, not directly, I was notified sort of through a chain of emails that said, hey, we need you to be at a closing 2 days from now. I couldn't comply because I wasn't even in the state. So that's sort of what spawned this conversation to say, hey, let's talk, let's see where we are. Because at that point in time, we were unaware there was a deadline. It was basically, hey, the board passed a resolution. Technically, we could have closed in January, really, if there was a desire to do so. So there was no restrictions really on the closing piece. It was basically just get in the same room, close the deal. I think with the time lapse that happened between late last year and this year, and why the board had asked me to request this meeting to say, hey, let's have a conversation, realizing that yes, there's the real estate transaction piece to this that requires movement, but I think where the school district sits is that if any organization, person, or entity approach the school to get land, there's basically almost a 0% chance that the school is just going to sell the land to them, unless there's a situation like the Loyal Sock Foundation proposed last year. So where I think the school's questions came in, or the district's questions, not me personally, not Anthony personally, not anyone personally on the board, was the connectivity with the school. And that's where the real, questions came from the board to say, okay, there is a pool. The desire and the discussions that were had in the early phases of this resolution being passed was this visionary piece of it being a connected piece to the school, which at that time there was a lot of talk about actually being right here behind, road access to the summit. Where we're at now is that with the 42 access that you're trying to achieve, because for a community project, I don't think there's anyone here that's suggesting this isn't, like an exciting deal. Let's be fair about that. I think the separation gap really is how the school and the children of the school can actually participate in their normal day. And based on the planning process that we're aware of now, it's virtually and physically impossible. So the school connectivity piece really isn't necessarily an option at this stage because of the commute through. So just to clarify, because I know what Mary and I had a conversation, I talked with Jess, I talked with Frank. I think it wasn't the school against the Loyal Sock Foundation of someone trying to, stop the press. I think there was a lot of stuff floating around in the community that it's good for us to kind of air out tonight, and that is, there's a new entranceway put into the school that we already passed and we're moving forward with that has a weight room facility. That's not really a community weight room facility. It could be, but the basis of that entire facility and the functionality of it is for the district kids, really. Sports program, the wellness of the kids in the school. So it's really not a competitive scenario. I think the concern is that going back to that 0% probability of the school providing a chunk of their land to any organization, is that has happened now, but the board and the district feels like that connectivity has gone away. So this isn't really, it never was a school project, but the pass of the resolution to provide 18 acres for an outside entity and peel off land from the district land, that whole pitch, presentation, development, and like, all right, we're like all hands in, let's do this, was in the understanding that that would benefit the school district, specifically in the kids of the school district. Still understanding that because it's an outside 501(c), that it's a community project. So I want to talk about that a little bit. And then the other piece is that from a deadline perspective, we were unaware that we were holding up, or that until, you know, very late July. And from the time late July where we had that correspondence, to be clear, we still have not really held up anything. So there hasn't really been a proposed date of close where we said, nope, can't do it, or anything of that nature. So, you know, I think, Doug, you can maybe speak to some of that as well, but I just don't want this to be a us against them in any way, back and forth, to say, well, the district is holding this up, because we are not. We're not suggesting that this project doesn't move forward, but I think there was a lot of that chatter going on amongst the groups. And to date, I have basically zero correspondence to understand what the expectations of the school are to finalize this project. So on the business side, I think that's what we're really here to sort out. On the project side of the you know, what you guys are doing and the time invested and the energy invested to get the funding and the things that's all, it's super amazing. It really is. It's the dedication is really great. That's really the separation of the district, you know, with the connectivity to the Loyalsock Foundation and the kids' benefit to that program. It's really what the questions of the day were.
So Gabe, may I interject and just have a little chat?
Yeah, that's what we're here for sure.
Okay, good. So I just want to clarify some of the things that were said in there, in your comments. So number one, I wrote down, so we basically, as well as the foundation, had to wait until the school district was chosen. So we couldn't really close in January, so we're waiting for John Alvin to be chosen.
I'll speak to that real quick though.
We received that information in March, and I read that information to us. So, and so basically, the other thing, John, you can actually also confirm that there has been discussions and emails going back and forth between our attorney and John, our solicitor, Sullivan County. So there's been a lot of going back and forth. In fact, John had approved the deed, the original draft of the deed. And but basically we were waiting. What we were doing was we were trying to close the triangle at the same time, because there's a title search to be done for that. And since the land is all right there, so all the attorneys agreed. The other attorney is Griffin and Dawsey and Tawanda. So they agreed that they would hire the title search to be done for the school district property. So everything was being done in conjunction, and so we're trying to do all three of those at the same time. So, and the other thing, as I wrote down here, is that the closing was not a physical closing, and we were told that the deed was approved, and it's really just a signed signature of the president of the school board to sign on the deed, and make sure that the resolution that was passed last year is good to go for that. And that's required, I guess, by title. But so there's been a lot of issues, you know, surrounding all of what's first, what's second, what's third. There's also the Obama property that was gifted to us in June of 2022. There's some issues on the other property, the Lifeline Trust, and various things. And again, I'm not going to list these all out. It's very confidential. But there's been a lot of issues behind the scenes. So there has been communication behind the scenes since March with your solicitor. And so I think that basically when you were asked to sign a piece of paper, that wasn't a physical. You could do that in the leisure of wherever you have a notary at the school or wherever you have that. So it's not going to be a physical closing. And so that's how that's happening. In terms of the deadline, we didn't think that we needed, there's the deadline for the DC program, which is every September. When we were told that everything was ready to go back in, where that was, and we had chosen this date, and it wasn't up to me, it was Urban and Dawes chose the date of August 3rd or whatever it was. That was far enough away from the deadline. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any problem, so we were just waiting for that all to happen. So again, I'm not on the law side, so I'm not sure, how many emails have been going back and forth behind the scenes, but I know I'm seeing quite a few. And to speak to the contingency about, in terms of when we requested to purchase this land and the discussions of the 18.2 acres, there are no contingencies on this. The only contingency on this, there's nothing about a driveway, there's nothing about anything else in this, transaction. The only contingency that was brought up by the judge when they were hearing on November 3rd was that we have a time frame, and so we agreed to a 15-year time frame. So if we don't have, anything going by the 15 years, the land reverts to the school district, and that's the only contingency we have in this transaction.
Okay.
So,
I think
Well,
just to clarify a couple of those is that when we knew there was no wait for appropriate legal counsel for the school, because this would not have been the only legal scenario that we would have had to have dealt with. So as soon as we knew that Ken was retiring, we had full, Doug had full potential, the board had full potential with several different law firms to conduct business. So the wait to March, I'm not sure where that came from because there was zero wait. John's firm was part of one of the subcontracted firms that we could utilize. They were not our chosen solicitor until then, but they were there working on stuff all along with us. So there was really no restrictions. As far as the correspondence and the ability to just do a simple signature and closing, again, the correspondence that we got finally came in July to John that had a very long string of emails that excluded, when I say excluded, I'm not saying they purposefully excluded us, but it didn't include John or our firm or the district. And then when it finally got to the end of whatever they were working on, which was between Joe Hayes and his staff, they basically said, Mary's, really wants to move forward with this closing. But there was nothing really said in regards to the planning process for that. It just like actually coming together and saying, hey, this is what needs to be done. This is the date that we're going to do it. And actually, you don't even need to be there. Electronic signature is fine. Totally good with all that. I think that the other piece that I owed to the district and the board is that once this started to come into full swing as far as, hey, we're going to move forward with this, a lot of the members here are new. So I couldn't just go off and say, well, I'm just going to sign this when I have a unanimous request from our board to say, hey, let's have a chat real quick about this. So, Doug, you were going to say something. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think there was no legal restrictions as we went through with this. And all the notes or correspondence that John had, we all, like the board and our superintendent and myself had, but they didn't come until very late. And again, it was an eventual transfer of a lot of information, all with one correspondence is really how it came to fruition, so.
Yeah, I guess, I just wanted to say it was, when we got that email to close on Monday, I never got a response saying that it could be electronic. And my response was, because I testified in front of the Commonwealth Court to approve this, and then all I hear in the community is rumors of the districts holding it up. The Loyal Sock Foundation had always had the support of the board. I don't know why it had to become so argumentative. I don't know why we were pitted against each other. And that's why I said, well, I'm going to have to bring this up in public, because what action did the board take to delay this once? But that's what I was hearing. So, I kind of was offended by that, because I don't know that we were holding anything up. I don't know that we could have done it any quicker. So, you know, that was just a difficult spot, that's all. So, you know, I was having to defend myself from rumors in the community that we were holding it up, and to this date, we still don't have a date for closing.
So maybe we could wrap this up,
Yeah,
and don't take any offense, John, but everybody could just blame the attorneys. You know, in any real estate transaction, you just point the finger at the other attorney and say, well, it's their turn to do something, so.
So
I'm
Mayor,
not sure we were really
what needs to
trying
be
to keep
done
it
right now
light
to
there,
get
sorry.
the situation
Thank you.
done?
So, yeah, so we need to receive, the deed has to be signed by the president of the court, and that's where we are. And then there's a resolution that needs to be passed for you to sign it or to authorize you. And again, I'm not the legal person, so again, that long chain was with Griffin and Dawsey as well. So, you know, there's 3 lawyers involved in this, so, you know, I don't know, so I'm not the lawyer. I'm just waiting for this all to happen,
So-
yes, and I keep saying, you know, where are we here with this? Because, again, it seemed to be, it was like ready to go so many times, but, you know, again, we're waiting for title searches. I'm not doing the title searches because other people are doing those things. So again, it's been a long litany of what to do first and what to do second and what to do third. So again, it's not what
She's easy.
it's not my
are you gonna provide that?
profession.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, so I think we just need the closing, and it needs to be done for the 30th of September. So if we could have that would be great.
What did you say about a resolution though?
Yeah, I mean, so it just has to be whatever the lawyers require. I mean, they're looking at this and there has to be some make sure that the Gabe is, as president, is authorized to do the signing, I guess. Again, John, you probably know more about that than I do. I'm just.
So if we have this resolution next Tuesday night, we could actually sign Tuesday night. Is that?
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, I think that resolution.
So I have a question. I'm new to the board, so I am only getting bits and pieces from what I hear. But originally, I was under the understanding that the kids were going to be able to, sorry for my voice, going to be able to walk perhaps down to the facilities to use them throughout the day. And based on these maps, that area looks pretty far away. So has that since changed and now the kids can't walk from here to there?
No, I mean, it's about a third of a mile through that cross country there, that little line there that goes from, say, the softball field to the big rock. It's about a third of a mile. So if you go out there and walk, you can see where it is. So it's gonna be a path. We might have to put lights in there, but we were trying to keep it very natural for the cross country as well.
Several points. One, I'd like to hear what you have to contribute. If you're legally able to do that, when I get through a couple things and a couple other things I mentioned. That's point number one. Point number two, Crystal, at one time, several boards ago, and this was before I was a school board member, the foundation came to the school and proposed a road, some type of road access starting that would have gone in front of the school and around the softball field and in some fashion to the building, okay? That board turned down that concept.
Okay.
For what obvious, they were empowered to do that, and that's how that road disappeared, okay? point number 3 that I'd like to make is that our concept, there's nowhere to learn to swim in Sullivan County. And our thought was, with the pool, it would be integrated with the school district, and it would give an opportunity to teach K through 12 how to be water safe. Let's call it water safe, as well as possibly swim and some advanced swimming. No thought of a competitive situation, just a safety situation and providing something that was not provided in any way, shape, or form within the boundaries of Sullivan County. You have to go to the Muncie Y. To take any type of swimming instruction. And the third thing, the fourth thing, this is just a straight up legal agreement. The board agreed to sell the land. The wellness center elected to buy the land. We went through the legal process, and it's a fait accompli. Regardless of what the organization does with that property. And Gabe, while I respect your concerns about what the community was saying, it appears to me to be a situation between the school board, with you as president, Doug as superintendent, and the purchasing organization. And anytime, we've all lived in Sullivan County, some of you much longer than I have, all kinds of rumors are gonna run around. Rumors are freaking irrelevant.
Yeah, I think the point we're trying to make, though, is that, back to my very first comment, for any school district to give up property. Okay, yeah, you're right. Legally, right now, it's a real estate transaction. I've heard that from Mary, I've heard it from you, I've heard it from Jim. Fair enough, from a legal perspective. I think the point that needs to be said, which is water under the bridge really, is that for a school district to give up property for any project, your chances again of that happening and having sort of a disconnected project is ultimately almost zero. Because if you were approached by the neighbor and said, hey, does the school want to sell 10 acres? I want to bolt it onto my existing property. So that's the part that I think is disheartening to the district and to the families and the kids of the district currently, is that there's not a real clear, the original conversations, and I know I'm kind of like the lone wolf speaker here, but the original conversations that were so insanely attractive that created the situation where the board was like, oh yeah, all in, was the speak of, yes, the pool, but there was the speak of field house, being able to hold tournaments. We were talking about this connectivity piece of, hey, we've got the gymnasium, and we used other schools as examples to where this was almost going to become the quasi field house for the school, right? And I guess what happened then is the 42 access pretty much started to push and fade that away. So yes, you can't turn back time. I guess what I'm saying is that the clarity of where this is at as far as the district connectivity is that this is a community project. When we were approached to sell land to the Loyal Sock Foundation, it was a connectivity project.
And also
Okay, I know, oh, sorry, go ahead, Heather.
Also, to Gabe's point of view, Mary's saying that there was no intention of integration with the school, but now you're saying that originally there was supposed to be integration.
Absolutely.
So you two are cross-pathing, and this is why we are confused as to what is actually supposed to happen and what is going to happen. That's why we have questions. You
Okay,
two
so
have
let me
to
just
do
clarify
actually-
that,
Excuse me,
so,
do you actually need the school land to put up your building?
this building is going to be on property number 1, and the outdoor amphitheater is on the school property.
Yeah, but you don't need the school property for the building.
That's not gonna be the building, it never was. So let me just clarify that the.
But you're
Sullivan
talking,
County-
the benefits here are the building and the swimming pool. And that
I'm sorry?
has nothing to do with the land from the school.
Right, and it never was. So we
Okay.
never said, the building was always gonna be on property, the Reeves property, ever since the beginning. We proposed, purchase this land in October of 2020. Okay, so there was never any talk of any connectivity between the lands, because we were always told, in fact, when I came in November of 2019, and I was part of the Sullivan County Rec Association at the Sullivan County School District Board meeting, and I was told, no, there was no way that we can do this on the school district property for the building, which is what the Rec Association tried to do for like the last 12 years. And so that because of the roadway and all of these other issues, and basically that's when we were told basically, no, we have to find somewhere else we can't bring in the road to the school district because it would be open throughout the school day, and they didn't want anybody traveling in here be a security issue. So that's what we were told. And so that's where we went and found something else. So there's never been a connectivity. There's been a way to get the kids walking over there and that kind of thing. But to your point at the end, I'm not sure I know your name, but in terms of being integrated, what Frank said about the swimming lessons, that's what we're saying. We'd like to have every child learn to swim, and we're going to try to get some grants and programs so that we can do that for the children. And so, I mean, that's the reason why we wanted to be next to the school. And then out of the blue, this 10 acres came up for sale, which is contiguous to the school district property. So we looked at that, we did all the research on that in terms of DEP and things, and then after all that was settled, then we came, and as we were collecting our, the other areas for the various things, the trails, and then we saw the amphitheater possibility, so that's when we came to you. And there was never any promise of a building being on the land. That land is not buildable. Okay, so part of the land we're buying from the school district has a big ridge that runs through it, and it's not buildable. That's where we're putting the National Amphitheater, right there, and that's the backdrop. So, I mean, the clarification is that, we never said that we were gonna build anything there, and we've never ever discussed a field house. I'm sorry, gang, that never was even on our list, and we can have, I'm sure those people in the audience that are on our advisory boards, we've never talked about a field house. The gym is one thing, we have a pool. In fact, we actually spoke to the LaPorte Fire Company a couple weeks ago, and Dan Morrison gave me the authorization to quote him, and he said, actually, if we didn't have a pool in this building, he wouldn't be able to protect us. So he's only, saying that this is gonna be a go if we do have a pool, because they're gonna use that in case of fire, because it's a hill, it's up there, a half-mile hill. So, again, I think that what I'd like to invite is, if there's ever any question as to what is out there, these rumors, please, I'm a phone call away. You can look at our website. We have that up there. A lot of our people on our advisory boards, both the Vortex and Apex Council, and we will invite your questions. We don't want the rumors to be out there. We just want total transparency. So that's where we are right now. We finished all of our concept designs, and that's where we're going now. Is we're planning to go and find a way to make this happen. And I guess where I put down, and I want everybody to really sit and think about this question, is it's hard to fathom that there's a private venture that's going to spend upwards of, 17, whatever, 20 million by the time we get there for the building of an indoor pool, a track, a fitness center with weights, an outdoor amphitheater, outdoor classroom that's in a tree house for educational classes, exercise classes, all kinds of walking trails, running trails, bicycle trails, all for the benefit of our community. And it's only a third of a mile from the school. It's contiguous to the school. It's hard to fathom that there's not going to be a benefit for this school and for these children. That's where our hope is, actually. We need to change. I didn't even tell you about all of the data that is helping us get grants in terms of where our health, well, and wellness and our health outcomes are. And the percentage of, we have over a third of our population is 65 and older and growing. And so all of these things are helping us find ways to fund this. And so it's a lot of money, and it's going to be this facility, which is right on the doorstep. So I'm finding it hard to see that there's not a benefit to the school and to the children.
Could you do this project without our land?
It is not even an option now. Loyalsat Foundation, neither Loyalsat Foundation nor the school district can get out of this. This is a legal document that has been ratified by the courts. It is happening, whether one of us wants to get out or not. So that's a moot point. It's not even worth debating question.
The point goes back to originally, so there's what you spoke of in regards to the board's decision to not give access to that property. That was actually, I would say, 2 boards ago, when that was not with the board that passed the resolution to provide the property.
That's correct.
Just to be clear. And I will say that 100%, because some of the board members that were there that actually voted on this resolution were there, and through those, that, let's not confuse the word gym and field house. They're synonymous, really, because the point was to have a gym facility, and that was the appealing part. The other appealing part, there's no way that a board is going to vote on property to be given to any foundation, any organization that does not have that connectivity piece. So now it's fine. Again, but we need to air this out. This is not a part of the connectivity. We've sliced and diced this thing 6 ways from Sunday. You cannot get our children to that facility inside of a school day.
Sure
Okay?
you can.
No, you cannot.
With a little bit of creativity, you're
Based on the current,
No, wait. That, I think, is a misconception.
unless you provide access.
There is access. We're talking about physical education and wellness. We're not talking about math. You can take a group of children, K to 12, and they walk a third of a mile. That's walking and wellness. They take a swimming lesson. All of our physical education teachers, the 3 that we have, and perhaps even our new athletic director, I'm not sure, but certainly we have 3 that have been taught how to teach swimming in their undergraduate education. We do the class and we walk them back. And there's no cost on that.
How much time do you think that would take?
Well, what grant would be providing that?
During the day?
That,
How much time would it take out of their day?
I use the word creativity with physical education. But the payoff is that our
I'm just saying,
kids,
they'd be missing other classes.
So,
Well,
and
now,
it's fair enough. There's no
that-
sense in continuous debate this.
principals can figure that out. I understand what your point is, what your question is, but if we want to teach K to 12 to swim, we've got a unique opportunity. And there are also, I'll add, very few, in fact, I don't know of schools that have pools other than Central Columbia on their campus. And,
Athens.
So, I mean,
excuse me, you're right, Sayre and Athens do.
there is the point that
I have a question then.
we haven't talked about, you know, we have an activity run at the end. So there is the possibility that after-school programs could be developed with the center and still be on an activity bus at
Yeah,
5:30.
there's ways, there's
So it's
still ways to
from
potentially.
3:30 to 5:30, which would probably be more appropriate than
I
during,
mean, I use the
during
word
the day.
creativity.
I got it. I think
Yeah.
that the point I'm trying to make, no one's against the progression of the project or getting creative on how we do it. The point I'm trying to make is when the board was presented with why to do this, it was very different than currently. Like, and I've heard this more than once, but it's kind of disheartening now at this point that the district is really, and this, I'm representing the kids of the district, not my personal feelings. It's that we're to the point now where some of the members of the Loyal Sock Foundation have said back to me, like it or not, this thing's moving forward. Resolution is passed.
We just got told that.
So, and we just heard it again, so great, like, fair enough. I guess though that's not super collaborative in moving forward with convincing the process. I mean, there's a lot to work out. It's not built yet. There's creative ways to do it. I get all that. I think that just us coming together and having these discussions aired a lot of stuff out that we can now, we have a better understanding of where we're at, the connectivity piece, what's gonna be available, the timeline of when it's gonna be available.
Cost
And that's
to the
really,
community.
what's that?
The cost to the community.
Yeah, the cost, and that's kind of what this board was asking for, so,
Shelley had a question then.
what's that?
Go ahead,
Had a
Shelley.
question.
Thank you. So I just wanted to know the path that's going to go from the school district to this facility, is it going to be paved? Because if we're gonna try and take kids to do swimming lessons there, what about handicapped kids? Yeah, so when I initially talked about that with the previous superintendents ago, that's when the response to me was like, there would be a bus that can go around. So, depending on where we are at, that's the answer I got then.
So my concern is if we're pushing this pool so much for the kids, why are we gonna concentrate money on trails right now instead of working on that pool first? Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, actually, the next steps would be the driveway, which will, we have to go, we're gonna get that's the next grant, is the driveway, so we do the engineering for the driveway, then the driveway, so the loop trails can be part of that. And people can get there and start realizing that this is where the summit is, and we can, they can start being, active there, and maybe we'll even be able to kind of get the tree house in there, so there could be some exercise classes. Again, all of these things are money, and we're just, we haven't gone out with a capital campaign yet.
So when you're saying trails, you're not saying like spend money to go out and start building them per se? That was my
Yes.
question, why you're not gonna work on the pool first after the driveway instead of these trails?
Okay, well, the pool is part of the building, so the pool can't go in without the building.
Right, why are you not working on that first after the driveway?
Because the trails are actually already there, the logging roads.
Oh, that's what I was asking.
Grant.
So you're not putting
Yeah.
money in the trails?
Yeah, okay, so we got a grant from, so we can clean those up
Perfect.
and put
That's
out
good.
we already ordered the benches. We're gonna have some signage made, we've already talked to the sign person, and we're gonna hopefully have that up and running in 2023, so that people can get out there and see it.
Perfect.
So we need, a place for them to, a temporary driveway, so they can actually come to the park, those kind of things. It's all like in stages,
Right.
phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4.
Yep.
But meanwhile, we just came out with the concept design. in August. And so we are doing our little soft kind of discussions with a lot of people to see what the interest is and talk to, like I said, Senator Casey, as Congressman User, just to kind of see where we are on the federal level and what kind of monies we can get there. And again, Senator Yall with the redevelopment capital assistance program of the $7.5 million that we're on there for 10 years for that. And we were put on that budget in 2019. So we have 10 years to stay on that, which is a big deal just to get on there. And we would apply for that money and you can apply for it. You don't have to apply for the $7.5 million. So if we raised $1 million, we could apply for another $1 million from the state. But we have to use it within a certain amount of time. There's time frames. You can't just wait. So to do the building with the pool, we will have to have the entire amount that it's going to cost, as well as the endowment. And so we have to have all of that ready to go pretty much before we actually hit the shovel.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, go for it.
Two things. One, I've been involved with this since 2007 when it was under the auspices of the Sullivan County Rec Association before Mary Bomick-Blondie started the Summit Foundation. And the community concerns that you pick up, until a month ago, I had never heard the word field house for this project. And again, going back to physical education, anybody with a physical education background knows that there's a staggering difference between a field house facility and a gymnasium facility. We've never talked about a field house. So I wish that word could just be eradicated. And after Mary's research, eventually we'll get to a gym. And the thing that if stories are going to run around the county outside of your purview, here's a great one. Mary picks up the phone, talks to Senator Casey. Let's just say it's on a Tuesday. Later that day, she gets to Senator Casey's staff. Later that day, she gets a phone call saying Senator Casey's coming up for the Little League World Series. He wants to come to LaPorte to meet you. And he comes up to the World Series and comes up here and meets with Mary. And a little bit of research tells you that Senator Casey is the leading senator in the United States Senate for elder affairs and elder health and things such as that. I mean, the work that Mary has put in of planting the trees properly to yield fruit are just utterly amazing. And if things are going to go around the county in rumors, I'd rather have those rumors go around the county than things such as a field house, which has never been mentioned, and there we are. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you.
I don't think that anyone's pushing back on that. I think we just, this is the first, I would say, collaborative meeting that the foundation has had with the school since the original resolution was concluded. So I think we learned a lot based on that. And, you know, as we said before, I think there's an understanding of where the connectivity piece lies. I think there's a better understanding for some of the administration and for some of the new board members. So that's what we were trying to achieve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Everyone else, are there any questions that we can help you with now?
I'm good to go.
So all of these plans that you see over there are on the website, so please take a look. If you have any questions, again, you can find info@loyalsoutfoundation.org or Mary Blondie at loyalsoutfoundation.org. You know, always they're willing to take your call and prepare to hear you out. So whatever you know, we're here. We gotta make this happen.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
You guys have any other questions? All right. So, if no one has anything else for building and grounds, we'll kick it back up to finance.
There's a question.
I have one question. I'm wondering if you would like the display and the other information to remain here for the rest of your meeting. Could I pick it up later?
Yeah, sure. If that's okay with you guys.
Yeah. What time do you think you might be done?
Or tomorrow morning.
It's hard to say tonight. And you never know, depending on what kind of conversations we get into. I don't want to speak for anyone, but if you want to pick it up in the morning, that might be the best option.
Okay.
I don't know whether it can.
Do
Do you want us just to take it down to the office, Kathy?
Last year.
Yeah, just so everything comes. There's the papers here, then there's a case that the display goes
Okay.
in, okay? And
Chris, could you drop that off for her
I guess that's
tomorrow?
What's that?
You think you could have someone drop that off for her tomorrow?
I can just come over, it's not a problem. But I just want to say one more thing. I mean, all this effort that's going into it, I certainly hope that the school children can use it. I hope that you can work something out, that these kids can benefit from this amazing facility. You know, I hope it works, because it would be terrible if that's sitting right there and the board cannot figure out a way to get those kids over there to use it. You know, get a grant to have a bus sit here every day and drive those kids over. You know, how expensive could that be? You know, for the amount of benefit that they get. So I just hope the school can figure out some way to use the facility. And that's it. And I'll pick, so Lynn, will you have it in your office? Would that work?
We'll have it down for,
Okay,
unless we're just
thanks.
gonna drop it off.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you for letting us come.
Thank you, everybody.
See you, Mary.
See ya.
Over to you, Hal.
Okay, thank you. We have the treasurer's report, capital reserve fund, the capital projects fund, and the food service. Does anybody have any questions on that? Anthony, Heather?
Nope.
And that 300 and some thousand with the project going on, that's kind of where we're gonna be hanging out with that capital reserve fund. So,
Yep.
Nothing, okay. Check registers, we got another one, I guess.
Yeah, another two.
This pack.
Everything in red.
Yeah,
So there's two.
okay.
there.
We got what we had before, and then we have two more. Total of $1,713,056.12 at this point. Item 3 is account custodians for high school PBIS activity account for fiscal year 22-23. High school principal for high school activity funds. I thought we already did that one.
Well, in May, you approved all the activity funds.
Yeah.
However, since we started the PBIS,
At the high school,
Yeah.
at the elementary level, the PTO supports the PBIS program and helps with the incentives. At the high school, we don't have a PTO, so what we did is we sent out letters to the community, they're still going out, they're not all out yet, asking for donations for businesses and organizations to donate to help with the incentives. And they're starting to come in so that we have a place to collect the donations, and then buy the incentives, we need an account.
Yeah, so it's in a.
It's another activity
Yeah.
account.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So next May, when we do this, that'll be listed as
Yeah,
one of
okay.
the activity accounts.
Okay. It can't just be added to the other one.
Well, we want it separate because we are taking collections from other than student fundraisers and that sort of thing.
Specifically for that purpose then. So
And then we will be sending, thank you letters out to the organizations that donate and receipts so that they can account for that correctly.
They won't use it for other stuff.
I know this might make this long-winded, but that activity fund accounts, all these different accounts, they have different tax purposes and things of that accounting nature, correct? So how does that work with that being a donation? Is there a way that could be tax deferred or?
No, there's no,
No tax for
there's no
school.
taxes.
Okay, no, I was
Yeah,
just curious.
under-
Kind of like you give money to a 501(c)(3), it's for
Yeah.
donations and things of that nature, if it worked the same way, donating to a school.
Yeah, a public school district isn't a nonprofit, it's a not-for-profit. I know there's very little distinction other than you don't get to tote one of those 501(c)(3) names for it. But, when people do make donations, they can, and we do provide them minutes and, of their donations, so they can take that into account.
Thank you. It's a lot shorter than I thought it was.
Yeah.
So thank you.
We are included in the tax code as a not-for-profit, but, we don't have a designation like a 501(c)(3).
Done with all that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Item 4 is a payment request for MHE Engineering, one for the athletic entrance, assuming just more plans, and we're still paying for the auditorium, I guess.
Yeah, we still have to close with NOTO. They're in their closeout procedure since, Lance, do we have both the light controller and the sound controller now? No,
we just have the sound control.
just the sound, we're still waiting on the light. So they're only billing us for work that they're doing. So, if NOTO doesn't have any work, then they're not billing us for any of that, so.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Anthony? No? Okay, elementary wants, PTO wants small games a chance license. We always approve those, that's not a big deal. The donation of the Yamaha piano. That is by whom?
Arlington Setzer, and he assigned it an approximate value of $500. It's a used instrument, but it's still in good shape. Mr. Saggety and Mrs. Eberlin worked that out, and I think it's going to be a nice addition. And we will be providing him copies of the minutes for his records.
No problem with that. I assume the music department wants it.
I directed the request to Mr. Saggety so that he could see if it was something they could use.
Okay. Any other? Nope. That's it, Gabe, for finance.
Just real quick, the MHE engineering services for the 3,700. I haven't really necessarily been tracking that. I just know that.
Well, we can get the invoice actually has what they do, but it's kind of a time and materials. They'll have so many minutes on such and such engineer, so many minutes on, so they're keeping on their timeline. It's just the work that the hours they've assigned to.
Okay, so this is basically towards the original budget number?
Yes.
Okay.
It's towards that, if you remember, the amount of money that we
Yeah.
assigned to
I just
them.
wanted to
It-
make sure it wasn't something else
No.
that, okay.
It's, if you see MHE for that, for the sports entrance, that's within that agreed
Okay.
sum.
All right. That's the only question I had.
Yeah. I'd just like to be the guy that gets $222 an hour.
It's a firm fee. We struggle with it all the time.
Sounds pretty good. That's almost as much as a principal.
Almost.
Okay.
Good to go.
So we don't have a firm.
We're gonna need you to bring snacks from now on.
The vending machine wasn't working. Where's Mary?
Okay, we're done again, Kate. Go on.
So, let's move to athletics and health. Mr. Derlin.
All right, athletics and health. Anybody have any qualms about, adding names to this? I don't see any issue or concern.
What's that?
To the resignations and approvals all the way through.
We do that.
We've done it several months now.
We do that when it comes to hiring.
Okay, so letter of resignation from a varsity assistant coach, which is, Mr. Derek Higley. That's item 1. Any questions? And then item 2 is recommendation to add to the volunteer coach list, which would be Derek Higley. I have no qualms. Any thoughts, concerns? Approval of a varsity golf coach. Submittal of Deb Livner has been recommended.
And that's retroactive to the beginning of this season, I assume.
That's what we would be asking.
Okay. No, thank you. I didn't see that on anything, but that, I'm just gonna jot it down. Just for the clarity part, that way we can capture it and then notes. Yeah.
She wasn't doing it for free.
The approval of drama club advisors, there's assistant one on item 5, I apologize. So the drama advisor, Danielle Kinsey. Item 5 is the assistant advisor to the drama club, which will be Sue Kinsey. Is it Kinsley or Kinsey?
Kinsey.
Kinsey. All right. Item 6, the administration may make a recommendation to hire coaching staff. Going through what documentation I have.
I added that to the committee agenda just in case we had an applicant to put forward for one of our open positions. And you'll see that over the coming months as we continue to have open positions. I'll just leave those on there so we don't run into issues with the Sunshine Act having to,
Meet our
add things
our
within months.
timelines.
Yeah, so, but
Yeah.
Mr. Solomon, we do not have anyone to bring forward at this time, correct? Okay.
And for clarity's sake, however flexibility can be met to get anything moved forward, because you know how sometimes these applicants come in at last minute, so.
Right, and that's why we'd
It'd
want
be
to.
bummers to get somebody next Wednesday and then wait till next month, so if we have to do something special, we can do that anytime. And then item 7, approval of the class of 26 advisor, which is Katie Rosa Martier. Item 8, approval of the enrichment advisor, Stacy Strabilla. And item 9, approval of band chorus director, Ryan Sagan.
What does the enrichment advisor do?
It's part of the gifted program. Stacy's actually taking over our K-12 gifted support this year. So with the enrichment advisor, that would allow her, that's specifically for the high school and some of the activities that they could do. Sometimes they might do some things that are after school or some special events or things. It's just part of the gifted program, sometimes field trips. So it's just part of the gifted program.
Thank you. Nice job. Took my thunder. So ask that.
So do Do we have any
And that is all
vacancies in the extracurricular right now?
The SAD advisor, I think, was,
The SAD and, what was it, reading.
reading competition.
Competition.
Okay, so just those two.
What about athletics?
We have still a junior high cross country and girls varsity basketball.
Junior high cross country is going on. And varsity girls basketball. Those are the only two positions.
We've been
right?
advertising, we started advertising at the end of last year for girls basketball, but we put a deadline for this Friday. We've had, some discussion of if you can't find somebody else, I might be interested, so.
I understand the difficulty. I mean, we played around with the soccer coach and all of a sudden we were approving it the day after the first day of practice. And next board meeting is the last, not the one Tuesday, but the following month is the last board meeting before wrestling season starts in basketball. And we'll be back in the same position. So if somebody knows somebody who would like to coach, please talk to them.
I mean, Ryan's been making phone calls and reaching out to lots of different people, different districts he's reached out to.
That brings up a good point. I'd like to see this committee start meeting, having work sessions to go over some sort of procedural avenue, so that way we can be consistent, because last minute things do happen, and if we can keep them all the same way, so if somebody applies mid-season, how is that handled versus out of season? That way the process is followed each time, and it's not a surprise to everybody.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk more about setting up times and dates. Yeah.
We would love
So-
to do that.
So, I'm excited to get that rolling, so, I'll give some credit to Mary Lee, she had a pretty good layout on how they do curriculum, so I'd like to copy that. So, and that is all for athletics and health.
Cool, thanks. Mary Elise is not here, but curriculum, I don't know if, it could be. I mean, they're not necessarily timed out, so.
Could I back up just for a minute, add an other to just informational?
For us.
Yeah. So I've been doing some research on the archery, I guess this is where this would come into play. The National Archery School Program in the schools program. We actually have 2 new students here who were in a program in the Tunkhannock School District. So I was able to get a hold of the gentleman that kind of runs that program. He's willing to come here and look at our facilities and help us. My biggest concern is the netting, because this is a program that runs all year. The netting is heavy and cumbersome, and I talked to the phys ed teachers, and they typically did it they did the archery program in the spring, because then basketball was over. But to run the program effectively, you need to start in the fall. The competitions are through the winter, and the state event is in April. So the gentleman I was speaking to was kind of giving me some pointers, like how their net it's put up for practice and taken down. Practice is once a week. They run their practices on a Friday. They're 3-hour practices, but the kids aren't there for the whole 3 hours. The first hour is for new shooters. Second hour is kind of your intermediate shooters, and the third hour is for your advanced shooters. But they put the net up and take it down, and he gave me what they use to do that, so that it's not a major task.
We
That's
used to
3
have one
hours
on
after.
a thing, right? That's gone.
No,
they-
they put it up in the spring for baseball. When they
Right.
start having.
And then they
Oh,
used it
take
for
it down
archery.
completely, out of the room.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
So he gave me some information on how they hang theirs and then take it down for each practice. Michael Scott, checked on the certification of the people that we had trained. None of them, they no longer have certification because it ran out. You had to teach a class in order to maintain the certification. The gentleman from Tunkhannock says they're looking to recertify some people and get some new certifications. So
Piggyback.
even if we did it combined, when I talked to Michael Scott, it didn't sound like it was a problem to come up and train us here. The guy from Taconic was like, well, they like to have at least 12. Don't know that that's the case, but we could always have them come here and they could bring their people here to get trained at the same time.
Cool.
So we have been looking into that. What I see happening, and I think I mentioned this before, and the guy from Tunkhannock said the same thing, they introduced the archery program in the phys ed class. It actually goes down to 5th grade in the fall, and then they start their organization in mid to end of October. So that's something I see is still feasible. I'm not sure our PE teachers, because it's late nights and they both have small children, but we can get adults, volunteers. I know, Doug, you talked to a gentleman at the fair that would be interested in helping. The parents of the 2 kids that moved to our district is interested in helping. If we can get some more people to get certified, because if they're on the line with the kids, they need to be certified. There can be other parents that help, but to be on the line training, they need to be certified.
Cool. So you're thinking that maybe it's still possible, even if it's not totally, full-blown program, that you could start?
Oh, it'll be the same thing they're offering elsewhere, that they're offering in Tunkhannock.
You see that, you think we can get it moved
I do.
by
I do.
October? That's great.
Yep, it's a website that you sign up the kids, and for the competitions that they sign up, I was on it. And the gentleman from Tunkhannock is like, I'll come up, I'll walk you through everything.
Perfect.
Great.
Phys ed teachers want to do this
They do.
during wrestling season?
They want to do it in their gym class. That's why I said I don't know that they would be willing to do the program. Like, they would introduce it to the kids in the phys ed classes. And it's a year-long program, so maybe if we could get some adults certified to volunteer to do that in the evening, once a week. My thought was, because we use our gyms,
Friday nights are kind of busy.
but how about Friday night in the elementary gym? I don't
Taking
think
that
youth
up there.
basketball goes on Friday nights.
But when boys,
Practice does.
but boys
But this would be
have a
after
game,
practice.
girls have practice, but
This would be after practice.
Youth basketball,
They run
I think,
6 to
goes
9 is what
Monday
they
to
run their
Friday.
practice.
With the youth program.
I don't have the schedule.
Youth basketball.
But that's what I'm asking, because some of you are involved in the youth basketball program. Do they practice on Friday nights?
It's hard to say. I think that's all based on, I think they put the window,
It's pretty broad.
The use form is like totally broad because it depends on the volunteers, and then the volunteers kind of, and sometimes it's not even the same day every week because you know how that goes with people coaching and being part of multiple programs, so.
And it doesn't have to be Friday night. We can work with the basketball program to figure out what night aren't you.
Yeah, I think the issues that we're bringing up, I mean, you have to work it out in the schedule.
Right,
With,
right.
you know, with the equipment, we're not gonna sort out whether it's Fridays or Thursdays.
And that's what I was waiting to hear from the guy from Tunkhannock to see how the program works, how it actually works with everything else.
Thank you.
And if we had it down there, we couldn't use the net.
We
Well,
can get
actually-
more
Have
than
we
that.
approved
We'd
this
have to get
program?
another one.
We can get another
I'm just
net.
I
saying,
mean, if we start
I'm just saying. So,
field hockey,
You know, it might even be a curtain
If we
wall,
approve
like,
it first.
maybe not the net that you're thinking
I
of,
mean, we're field
but you know, at
hockey.
the Bow Fest, we set these things up all the
Well, I
time.
think she's just at
Like,
the research.
Right.
So, I mean, it's
Students.
material, holistic
It's
material.
It's actually a
that just-
program that was
that-
approved
that-
before.
I think we should get hay
So,
bales.
But, you know, I mean,
No, but I think it's, I
if it
mean,
wasn't this year
the
round
nets,
program.
they make them in different shapes, sizes. I mean, the one that the North Mountain has down there, that they actually use to set up behind the targets, just in case a new archer misses. I think they're only 50 inches high, so I mean, they come in all shapes and sizes. We can probably have a custom one designed if we need to that fits exactly.
they actually, on the website, they have the sizes they recommend. They're 30 by 10 and 50 by 10. They're, let me find the right page, 300 and, you got $350 for the smaller version, $591 for the larger version. It's the attaching them. They use eyelet screws on the ends. They use the baskets that come down the side as braces, and a volleyball pole. Is that possible? I don't know, I have to go up and look. There's something similar in the gym in the high school, but that's what the guy would help to us figure out how to make that work. He has a whole system. He says a pulley system that it doesn't take much to get them up and take them down.
I think we could figure it out.
Thanks for staying on that. I think there's some kids that will certainly benefit and be happy to be part of that program. Anything else on curriculum?
Sorry.
What's that?
Sorry, I was delayed.
Oh. I know Mary Elise sent out some, as Anthony said, some good stuff for their, on what the committee's doing, and there's a bunch of cool stuff going on. They're actually really working well, trying to develop some of the policy changes just on how to deal with things. So maybe I shouldn't call it policy change, but just procedural, things for working together and communicating, collaborating district with the committee, so in the administration. So what we're trying to do, and I think that's what you were talking about, Crystal, is we're still on that quest to try to get some of these singular committee meetings, which Anthony and Mary Elise are doing, and then having sort of a report back to the board if there's things going on. That way, everyone's not trying to attend 16 meetings a month. But we did have a chat at our board retreat about the administration too. I don't know the answer to this, but it's like you guys have a hard time actually trying to make all these meetings, so we don't know what that looks like, but we just talked about, all right, how do we sort of kill two birds with one stone as we progress and have singular committee meetings, still have basically this is a committee of the whole, which I think we seem to fall into that pathway of people enjoy that, which is fine, and then trying to do it so that every other day you guys are not like, oh, there's another committee meeting on Wednesday, oh, there's another committee meeting on Friday. So I don't know the answer to that question, but I think what I'm trying to say essentially with that is we're trying to be collaborative and advance, and I think we're doing a good job of it. I mean, the board's starting to look at some existing policies, which we made mention that it's the first time in a very long time that we've seen that happen with the board. Usually it was, policy driven down by state change or guideline, and it's like, okay, here it is, here's the changes. John's shaking his head because that's pretty much out, right?
Yeah.
So the cool part about some of the committee work that's happening right now is we're actually going back in and looking at some of the policies and saying, hey, does this make sense? Is there something that we need to change? So it's pretty cool. I think there's some advancement going on there. So we're trying to be as cognizant as we can to your time as administrators, saying, hey, how many meetings a week or a month do I have to attend? So we'll figure it out.
Well, it's funny because Randy and I were just having this discussion about, the only time we really get work done is after school, because the day, you don't know what's going to happen during the day. So thank you for working with us.
Sure. All right, if no one has anything else, we can move to personnel.
Number 1, information, a paraprofessional staff member has moved from a 6.75-hour day position into an open 7-hour-a-day position. I don't remember seeing the name, so I'm not sure who it is. 2, acceptance of letter of resignation from a professional employee, Melissa Mavis. 3, addition to the list of approved substitute custodians, Bar Cawthor. 4, request from a professional employee for FMLA leave, and at this time that's non-applicable. 5, administration may make a recommendation regarding the hiring of a music teacher. 6, administration may make a recommendation regarding the hiring of an English teacher. 7, administration may make a recommendation regarding the hiring of a technology director. 8, administration may make a recommendation regarding the hiring of paraprofessionals. 9, administration may make a recommendation regarding the hiring of custodians. 10, administration may make a recommendation to add to the list of approved event staff, game managers, substitute custodians, substitute food service workers, substitute secretaries, and substitute bus drivers. Number 11 is other. I just want to add to that, and I don't know if it's under this or transportation, but nothing was ever said about our district losing Kevin Bullis as a bus driver. And I know all the kids loved him. He was a great asset to our district. And he is going to be deeply missed by a lot of people. So I just wanted to thank him for all his time and effort into helping our students get to everywhere they needed to be.
It's a lot of years driving kids around.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
He,
Yes.
actually, it's funny, I don't know exactly when he was done, but he was definitely one of those guys that on weekends did the bus routes and ended up standing at the games and.
Keep him score a few times.
What's that?
Keep him score a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin the bus driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was my first call in the morning. You know, driving to VOTEC, he had to leave his house by 5:20. So, but he did extra things for the kids. He coordinated with Cindy Fitzgerald the list of who wanted hot breakfast and who didn't, and she would have breakfast sandwiches ready at the door, so he would pick them up, and so he would have those meal lists, you know, for her. So yeah, he enjoyed driving those kids, and he enjoyed the sporting events. He really liked those athletic runs. So
Awesome. Anybody else have anything else? Cool. Policy procedure.
So I attached up policy 903, and then, you know, I didn't do an official markup, but in that second page, if you look, I just crossed that out. Their intent with the board secretary in advance of the meeting. Advance of the meeting is at the meeting, you know?
Yeah.
And then each statement made by a participant shall be limited. I put may. And in that, you know, it's also been, you know, if we have 40 people out there, you want to be able to hear everyone, and, you know, they could always speak a second time. So that's why I put may.
Says they can't hear.
They still fill out a paper, don't they?
So where it says they can't
If
sit
they're
there
gonna
the
speak.
second time,
Yeah.
you say
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Just read that or
Yeah.
whatever.
I think
We should
Blow it.
have, if they're gonna speak and stuff,
More than once the same
we
time.
should have them stand someplace. If someone wants to speak to the board,
Like have a podium.
yeah, basically.
And how did they get in the building?
Looks like there's a spot right there.
Yeah,
If they don't,
we used to have a podium until they all got burned out, but
Okay.
we can get another podium.
Just someplace where
I
they
think we
come
could
up
plan
to
on
and,
Just one of
you
those
know,
music things.
speak, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
but if they don't give us advance notice, how do they get in the building?
What's that?
If they don't give us advance notice, how do they get in?
We have event staff here. At
Oh,
this
there's somebody at the
meeting-
door now?
Yes,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
Yeah, we can't lock the
Rusty,
doors during any public
Rusty
meeting.
is here right now.
okay.
Yeah, with Rob
When I come
back,
in, there was
he's
no
taking
problem.
over that event staff again.
Nobody when I come in.
And we do have, well, not up front, the public would park in the back. So he's at this door out here.
Oh, okay.
It's a public meeting, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
understand it's public. I don't have a problem with them coming, I'm just how do they get in?
making sure they get in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have an event staff person at all the public meetings so that they have access to the board.
Yeah, and this is kind of testament to what we just talked about with policy changes, and it was just a review on our part, and I think that, the goal there was to have a bit of an easier time for public participation, because it was some of the feedback we got. Now, most of the time, you know, right now, we don't have any public here in physical attendance. I know
Yeah, we
a
do.
lot of people
Way
watch.
back up there.
Oh, yeah, but we don't, Deb's at all the
She's
meetings.
public.
But, you know, so I think this gives people a little bit of a,
Because
this
superintendent,
allows
she's
them
not
to go
public.
higher or lower?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what, The thing was, people usually spoke beyond 5 minutes, but if we had 40 people just to keep people limited, that Gabe would say at the beginning of the meeting, you know, you'll be limited to 5 minutes.
May be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, we can,
Okay.
However you think it should be worded. You know our intent.
Yeah,
is to
yeah,
have
because
people
if
speak.
you read it, it could also mean that they could speak 10 minutes.
right. Yeah, and I think the goal there was that we had some feedback from the public that maybe not recently, but in a time where they wanted to come and sort of engage in a conversation, and it was basically like a very one-sided, is there anybody out there on the other side? So when we talked at our board retreat, we had said, look, let's look at the policy, and then we realized there was some older language in there. And the goal was to be able to have people feel comfortable coming to the meetings and talking, or you know, doing it online. Obviously, you know, that was good. It worked fine today. That it was pretty clear and could hear it. So that's the goal of that.
I have a question, that all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No participant may address or question school directors individually. We just kind of did that. Like Frank said, okay, Crystal, to answer your question, you know what I mean? So is that okay to leave that? It's the second sentence after the changing it from shall to may. Because I feel like sometimes they do specifically address us on individual things.
I think in reading that, the may, it means the same thing as shall.
No. Go 2 sentences down after that. Oh, you're talking that shall?
All statements shall be directed
Yeah.
to the presiding officer. No participant may address. So they can't address you individually. That's what that says.
Right, but they do.
Oh, I understand that, but I don't think you
okay.
need to change shall to may in order for that to be a definitive prohibition against directing conversations individually. That's how I interpret that sentence. No participant may, no participant shall. I mean, I think it means the same thing, may and shall, in that instance.
Okay, but please, no.
So I guess to clarify, your question is, are we
Are
going
we letting them or aren't we? Yeah.
myself personally, I'm totally fine with if there's a question. I mean, I don't know how you avoid that without.
I just want board members arguing with people out there.
Well, then you have a
You know what I
decorum
mean?
issue.
I might have a different opinion than Anthony, and they're arguing with me, and pretty soon they have me in it, and.
So if you read the next thing down, the presiding officer may. Now, I know that they may or may not, doesn't say they shall, but there's things that keep in decorum, disorderly persons. You follow those guidelines, so if something like that happens, it has to be stopped. And I think whoever's presiding at that point, I hope has the common sense to say, this discussion is over. We're gonna move on from the topic, and we can discuss this further at a later time.
Well, this board has used its committee meetings more as a work session.
Correct.
But I think this is really looking at board meetings, or at least that's my assumption. When you're actually making motions, having board discussion, the discussion is limited to the board members, not the public. The
Gotcha.
public makes a statement. So when the public is saying, I don't like what you're doing, they wouldn't be individually calling you out because, you know,
Yep, that makes sense.
you know, it's, you know, they would ask their question.
Yep.
But I think,
And I think, I'm with Anthony a bit, we're trying to make it a little bit more collaborative, but
yeah,
the, you know, the presiding officer, whoever that may be, whether it's me and I'm here, or whether it's Anthony or whomever's here that's taking that space, now or in the future, I think needs to control the room really at the end of the day. But
that's what John's here for.
It's true.
He'll get real slick.
Yeah, he will. You should see some of the board meetings. This is very tame compared to some I sit at.
I bet.
We've had worse.
So, if nothing else, we'll move to transportation. We do have a couple updates on that, because I know I think the notification went out on some of the route changes.
Yep.
And then, Lance, I know you were working with Cherry Township to, get some collaborative efforts going there in regards to where the activity bus goes and.
Yeah, so let's start with the changes to our regular routes first. There will be no changes. This is in relation to the 154 detour, which will start next Monday. And unfortunately, there's no avoiding it. We've spoken with the construction company. We've confirmed that, that there will not be a school bus driving down that road until they're complete. But the most important thing for our families that live out in the western part of the county is that their morning pickup time will be the same. So the morning pickup time will not change. We'll get them to the school. We have that flexible time between 8:15 and when class actually starts at 8:40, where our principals will be working with those students to make sure that they're able to get off the bus in time, able to get breakfast, get their supplies, and be ready for first period. The afternoon bus run, we've at our admin meeting this morning, and big thanks to Linda Hatton for showing up with our chart of how all our buses are parked at the end of the day. We discussed moving all of our western route buses to the front of the line at the end of the day, so they'll be departing first, so they won't get stuck behind any of the other buses that might make a stop along 220. And they'll head out. We expect right now that maybe a 15-minute delay on their afternoon drop-off times due to the detour. And then that leaves the activity bus run. SC21 is the activity bus that makes the after-school run out to Shunk, and then comes all the way back to the school. He usually arrives right now between like 5:20 and 5:30. So with the additional time from the detour, he wouldn't be able to make his after-school run out to Shunk and be back in time for our 5:30 activity bus departure. So what we're doing with that is our students that typically ride SC21 will load up on SC4. They will depart the school at 5:30, and SC4 will make its activity run starting to Dewshore instead of heading out to Mildred. It'll head to Dewshore, but it will stop at the Cherry Township building, and that's where SC21 will be waiting for them at that point. So they'll unload, the SC21 students will unload from SC4, they'll load onto SC21, and then SC21 will make their normal route. And the updated expected times for the activity bus are posted on our website, so they're available for families. And then SC4 will continue its route. It'll go Dewshore, Cawley, and then back to Mildred, instead of making its normal Mildred, Cawley, Dewshore route. So those are the updates that we have in place for next Monday. We'll monitor how things are going, especially those afternoon drop-off times. Right now, that's an estimate that it'll be 15 minutes. But then on the Transportation Committee, you'll see there's an addition, an agreement with Cherry Township, and we thank them for working with us on this. They'd just like us to formalize that we'll be doing that onloading and loading process there. And I mentioned it to John when he arrived that we'll be working with Mr. Levitsky, who's their solicitor, to come up with an agreement to indemnify and hold them harmless for any liability related to that, which I think it's going to save
Which
the
generally
students
I
from
wouldn't
shock.
expect anyway.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
This might actually work out better. This might work better in the long run on how you're having the bus pickup at Cherry Township building. So me and Joe were just describing, I remember in school, like they take the kids to New Albany area, and then the bus driver from the after school day got done with his Overton run, would pick them up from the one coming from Wyalusing, that would drop them off there. So that interchange happened regularly on the late bus, just for these purposes. So that bus ain't coming all the way back to the port from Shunk, going all the way back out. That's just money out of the district we're wasting. So this might be a savings in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely save time for those families relative to, you know, right now I think SC 21, if it had to come all the way back to LaPorte, maybe 5:45, 5:50 when it would actually get here. So the students on that route wouldn't be leaving till 5:55, 6 o'clock, and now they're having that extended time out. So, you know, I think right now we'll still be getting those students home close to dinner time, you know, following the activity run.
And that's about as clean as we can make it,
Yeah.
so.
But yeah, the morning pickup times will be the same, and that's you know, Mr. Linder highlighted that, you know, families, if we're going to keep one or the other the same, that's the one to maintain, because families have their normal schedules in the morning. It's a little easier for them to rearrange there, or the children getting home a little bit later than it is to pick them up earlier just to get them here by that 8:15 time. You know, they might not, you know, they might be leaving for work or so forth, so.
Good deal, thanks. Anybody else? I think we're good.
Yeah, the only other thing in your packet is there's board report from NTCC. Shut down the live stream.
Yep. I think we're good.